Lisa Pienaar qualified with a Bachelor of Arts of Education in 1994. She taught English and history in a large public school, after which she moved to a traditional private school as an English teacher. Lisa moved through the ranks of middle management and qualified as an integral life coach. In 2021, she moved to a startup school as the head of academics and was soon promoted to principal. She still enjoys interacting with students and feels she has a wider reach as the head of the school. So, welcoming Lisa Pienaar.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
What a beautiful bunch of people here. I get so excited when I see young people going into this profession because it doesn't have a great reputation. Teachers have a bad rap, right? And what I can't put in the official biography, which I have to send to people when they introduce me, is I was a terrible student. I was really, really naughty at school. I was one of those unreachable ones. Not unreachable, but I didn't want to be at school. But there were a few teachers who really played a pivotal role in my life and directed me towards this profession. I was never going to be a teacher. I was going to be a lawyer. I was like a human rights activist when I was at school. In those days, TED, the Transvaal Education Department, came round to the school, I think in grade 11, standard 9, for those of you old enough to understand that. And they spoke about giving bursaries in education. And I thought, education? I could be a teacher. And it wasn't because I was a great academic, I really wasn't. But I realized that I spent a lot of time in the classroom watching teachers and thinking, I could do that better. I wouldn't have approached it like that. Why is she doing it like that? Why isn't she stopping us when we're being so naughty? And I went to Wits. I'm very happy to have met quite a few Witsies tonight because I think it's a fantastic university. And after I graduated, I went back to my old school to teach, as one does. And that was quite bizarre because now suddenly Miss Viviers was Iris and Mrs. Fraser was Jess. And it was weird. Initially, it was very weird. And trying to find my feet in the school where I had been a student, and not a great student, but also I was accepted as a colleague now by these people. And I was young, and I was cool, and it was pretty difficult at first. I got involved in things like debating. I was the student council representative on the staff. I was the staff representative on the governing body. So I was clearly the people's person. And I think that is who I am, actually. But what I found was difficult was actually, it was the things that I needed as a student. I needed somebody who reached out. I needed somebody who saw me when I was misbehaving. And that's something that I think is really, really important for teachers. I think that you need to have a good long look at your students and try and understand them. They're not just naughty. They're not just resistant. There's often something going on. You probably learned, you would definitely have learned about the anger iceberg. You just see the behavior on the top, but underneath the surface, there's a whole lot going on. And for some students, there's nobody else in the world who asks the question, are you okay? What's going on? What's happening at home? And that's really vital. So my invitation to you as you head into this really, really academic field, you're going to need to do your job. You're going to need to meet deadlines. You're going to need to meet standards. But you're going to meet humans along the way. And those are really, really important a really important part of what we do here. In fact, it is the important part of what we're doing. You cannot take a student to the top academically if you haven't actually met them in the classroom. And it's vital. But at the same time, you can't just let them run riot. You've got to have boundaries. Children need boundaries and discipline. What was that film? Did you study it with me? Who did American Beauty with me? Was it your sister? Sam? No. Children need boundaries and discipline. They really do. It doesn't mean you have to be a meanie, though. It actually just means they've got to understand where the rules are, and you've got to stick to them. But at the same time, you've got to understand that they're humans, and you're not the only person making demands on them. They've also got 6 other teachers. They've got coaches on their back. There might be real conflict at home. They might be in the school play that keeps them at school till 9 o'clock at night every night. There's a lot that goes on in these kids' lives. And if you can meet them with empathy, you'll get a whole lot more out of them than you expect. So I had written top 10 tips for young teachers. And the first one that I said was, don't smile till April. It's old school advice. It's the advice I got when I started teaching. But really what it means is you can't start fun and try and be strict later on. It doesn't work that way around. They've got to know what you expect of them. Clear boundaries. My guru is Brené Brown. My staff laugh at me because every time I say, and Brené Brown says, no. But she says clear is kind. When it's clear what's expected of everybody, it's easier for them to understand what they need, what you need from them. So don't smile till April might be a little bit harsh, but if you start off firm and strict and they understand exactly what you need from them, it's much easier to loosen up later. But if you've been fun, cool teacher, and in April you're saying, you're late on your deadlines, I've got to hand in your reports. What are you talking about, ma'am? It's not really going to work that way. So start strict, you can loosen up later. That was number 1. Now I've got to go back to my notes. And my glasses. Sorry. Marking. Marking is going to be the bane of your life. Do it fast. Do it as soon as it comes in, because, and I'm not a mathematician or scientist, but scientific fact, it grows exponentially when you don't do it. Get your marking out the way as soon as possible, not just for your own sake. Why are you giving them work if you're not going to give it back to them? What's the point of assessment if you're not going to give it back to them and them learning from that? So be disciplined in your own practice of marking. It's really, really important for everybody. And you're going to thank yourself if you get it done as it comes in. Next, back to knowing your students. Start early by getting to know their names. We live in a country with such beautiful names, and some of them are really difficult for the English tongue to pronounce, but learn them anyway. Learn the hard ones, go home and practice them. Figure out ways to say them. It's the basic form of respect. You want a child to respect you, learn their name. Learn their name, say it properly. Learn something about them. Make connections on a human level. Maybe it's just the football team that they follow. Maybe it's that they play basketball after school. Maybe it's a band that they like. Find a connection. If they're a Swiftie and you're a Swiftie, quote lyrics to them. It really helps. It's essential that you meet them where they are. And that is the beginning of fostering good relationships with your students. When your students have a good relationship with you, A, they'll show up, but B, they'll also tell you what's going on in their lives. And as I said, sometimes you're the only person who's listening to what's going on in their lives. for your own sanity, be a lifelong learner. Be curious about your subject. Be excited about what you're teaching them. If you're bored in a particular section of work, how do you think your students are going to show up? You can't expect them to be excited about the finite verb if you're yawning while teaching it to them. You're competing with TikTok. You've got to show up excitedly. You've got to show up innovatively. And you live in an age where you've got access to the whole world's way of doing things. So use it. You've got access to AI. Use it. Don't let it do your teaching for you. Don't let them use it to do their learning, in inverted commas. But use it innovatively. There are amazing tricks out there. There are amazing videos out there. Use it. Get excited. Play games. I think the most important part of your job is that you are the student's guardian when they're in your care. Young teachers often think that they have to be confidential, they have to keep everything confidential when a child brings them something. And that's actually the most dangerous thing that you can do. If a child brings you something and they're in danger, or somebody else is in danger, you're not being cool by keeping that information sacred for them. You're actually potentially causing a lot more damage. So ask questions. Who do I report this to? Does anybody else know about this? Go and speak to the school psychologist. Speak to your phase head or grade head. Speak to somebody older than you who's been around for a while. You might very soon realize that this role that you hold as teacher is so sacred. It's incredibly precious that the connections that you make with a child could be lifelong. You know, I've been in this business for a while now, a year or two. And I was privileged enough to be invited to a reunion of a 10-year reunion recently. And it was amazing to me to see how these beautiful young people had grown into now young adults. And for me, the joy was walking into the room and people were so happy to see me. And they'd invited me. Like, that's a privilege. I didn't stay long. I didn't want to, I didn't want to hear all the gossip. But that is what you're doing. You're making connections with human beings. And if you do it right, it can be the most impactful thing you will ever do in your life. So I didn't say that, despite having stumbled into teaching and having been a terrible learner, I've been trying to get out of teaching my whole life. I really have. I've been trying to find ways. I did half a law degree later on. You heard I did the life coaching course. I've got a couple of side hustles. But I've realized along the way that this is an incredibly powerful career path. And what you do in the classroom goes so much beyond, so far beyond teaching them mathematics or science or helping them get their A in geography. That stuff is actually meaningless. In the big picture of things, it's nothing. I mean, do you remember, maybe you're young enough to remember what you did get for those things in matric. I remember it wasn't worth looking at mine. But I can tell you that this is the most rewarding career that you can go into. It's the most challenging. People don't understand just how draining it is standing up and performing every day. How you got to put on a bright face, even when you're feeling terrible, because your mood impacts the way that they show up. But at the end of the day, when you make that authentic connection with your students, you feel fulfilled, they feel seen and heard, and everybody wins. So all I can say is good luck, ask for help, be brave every single day, take care of yourselves. Self-care is essential. Have a mindful cup of tea in the staff room. Go and cry in your car if you have to. Take a few deep breaths, go for a walk. But at the end of each day, please pat yourself on the back, because what you're doing has impact and it matters. Thank you.